but from West Virginia, and the Lord brought her down to Winter Haven, Florida, and she visited with a family in the first church that we served in with Pastor Leo LeBeau, and he was from Arlington and had gone to a Bible college in Texas out that way, and we met there, and then the Lord said that was the one. So, and then our first date was a revival, Dr. Don Chalette in Lakeland, Florida, many years ago, from the old Baptist Christian College in Shreveport, Louisiana, many years ago. And the whole church sat between us, one end of the aisle to the other. But she's been a blessing all these years. We moved right across the street so I can walk to work up that street up there. The Lord provided that. The last Bible conference, the builder was standing out there and a financier and the owner. And God said, go over there and just, that's her dream home. That's what God wants. And we went across the street and that's the end of that. So, but 3 kids, 2 grandkids now, and they're all in Central Florida. We miss them dearly. After graduation, we'll be going down to visit with our pastor and for Mother's Day, and my mom and dad, get my dad settled in, my mom in an assisted living center and whatnot. So we're looking forward to that. All right, let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your power. Thank you for the preaching we've heard. Incredible preaching, Lord. Help us to be hidden behind the cross as we talk today about the things that are near and dear to the heart of these pastors, Lord. Father, I pray you create a clear pathway, very distinct and clear, so, Father, they can put things in their proper place so they can focus on winning people to the Lord and perfecting the saints and all the things that were preached about this morning. May it be so. In Jesus' name, amen. So here we have it, church finance. Let me get over here and work through a couple slides and with you. Luke 14, verse 28 through 30. This is our theme verse here at the Bible College. It goes on every financial report I produce every day, 3 times a day. I run cash flows about 3 times a day here to make sure that we're in sync and we can keep our tuitions as low as possible and keep our students out of here debt-free. That's the objective, is what we're trying to do, and stay away from the government. For which of you intending to build a tower, and the Lord was speaking, you know the passage, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost. There's 2,350 verses in the Bible dealing with finance. There's 5 on faith, 500 on prayer per se, but about 2,350. Whether he have sufficient to finish it, lest haply after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build but was not able to finish. And we want to finish everything the Lord gives us to do. And what I'm here today to help you with is to make sure that the banker or whoever that financier doesn't inhibit you from finishing the work you need to do. And here's some tools and techniques that we'll walk through. I gave you a document, and the headings on it are general information. It's the one with blanks. All right? And I gave you the sample of a pastor took his name off, took his address off, of a completed proposal done that I've helped a pastor with. I just finished one in White House, Tennessee. We got it down to 4 1/4, refinanced everything, lowered the cash flow on $1 million loan, freed it all up for his church to grow and take off. The bank had them under thumb, so I pulled in 4 or 5 banks together, had them knock heads, pardon the expression, every now and then I throw in an expression, and get them down to where they were right, where the Lord would sift them, and get it down right where it needed to be, and boom, he just called me, the treasurer, and it's done. So that's the objective. General information, financial information, property information, project description, and loan information. What I've given you in that thing, and you can take it with you, is used all across the nation. That's the one with the blanks, used all across the nation. That's what a loan officer, under the Fed guideline, which they're all federally regulated, would ask you. All right, so you can build your proposal. I gave you one in your, Pastor Cruz has in his right hand, a proposal done for Calvary Baptist Church. All right, this is a pastor that I've been working with. Dr. Reynolds knows quite well, and gave him to me a few months ago. We went through 5 banks. Now we're dealing with a finance company now that bought the note from the bank. Bank got in trouble, so their note was sold. So we're dealing with them in St. Petersburg. If I tried to call him before this meeting, and God keeps working it in. But he built his proposal, and that's a sample of what he built and took to 5 banks. And God's using that. Now the White House, Tennessee church was much faster and quicker, and it just went right through. And I narrowed it down to 2 banks, Vol State and Citizens. And they played a few games with the pastor, and that happens, okay? And we got it back, got it right, and now he's low and his rate's down there. But he had to be prepared before he walked in the door. When you walk in the door prepared and have the right information to present to a financial professional, who, by the way, I was one for 30 years. My job is to protect my depositors at all costs. I have to protect them. I'm lending their cold, hard cash out of the vault to a business I don't run, operate, have anything to do with. It's all arm's length, Don't know anything about it other than what they tell me in a resume or show me when I go kick the tires or look at the building and the property. That's all I know. And I meet the character of the person that's leading it and their leadership team. Notice in his document there, he delineates all the years of experience of his deacons and his business people in the church that are in there. I look at that for credibility. And once I see the credibility that's there, I see the building that's there, I see your budgets, and I see your financials, which we'll walk through in a few minutes, and I'll run you through the simple calculations that a banker looks at. I'm measuring risk. I want to make sure that I can repay my depositors plus some interest on time. And it's a low interest rate I'm offering, so I want lower risk. Okay, I'm not a finance company, I'm a bank. So we give you the lowest rates, best terms, and there's 8,800 charters left in the United States of independent banks. Not very different than an independent church, Baptist church, an independent bank when you think about it. And I've been in them for a long time. But we serve the public, we protect them. We're measured by measurements called safety and soundness. And there's calculations that go with all that based on our numbers. And so in direct connection to you, I'm the fiduciary. I'm the intermediary in between those depositors in that bank and the borrower. And so my job is to evaluate the borrower to make sure the repayment can come on time to the best of the abilities I can. I don't know the future, but I can look at their past, and I'd like to see at least 3 years of operating cash flows. That's the minimum guideline for a bank. Sometimes 5. Talks about 5 in that questionnaire. All right? And then I'd recommend and steer you to a local community bank, because the people on those boards are local business people. They have a heart for that community typically. They're under a great deal of scrutiny. Their thumb is, they sign on the dotted line just about in blood. Their financial statements are pledged. Their assets are pledged. So things go wrong, it reflects directly on them. Okay, and comes out of their wallet. They can go to prison. They can go to jail. Okay, it's just that simple. And some did recently in the last 1,000 banks that closed. And there's probably another 1,000 to go at the end of this recession that this recession you're living through. So I got a burden about this thing as I came up here. Didn't realize the skills would apply. But if it hit all the business people like it did in Florida, which is one of the worst hit states in the country, it's hit churches. It's hit people all over. And it hit this one, And basically here all it was, I had to get the audited statements done and make sure that they were in compliance with all the covenants, which are in compliance with all the federal regulations, which released and unlocked the vault, lowered the rates, doubled the cash flow, and just blew it off the top. So I enjoyed doing that. I didn't realize I could do that here. It was fun. And when those deacons sat down, chairman of the board of deacons, secretary of the church, and the president of the corporation, which is always the pastor, sat down and we walked through it, and they signed on the dotted line in that corner office down there. The relief for me, just to watch their faces and the blood run, everything just, just a big calm. You need to stay on the preaching and the singing and the winning and all of that and get those things in order with the right people in your congregation, okay? And we'll deal with construction after rent. We'll deal with purchasing, and we'll have a Q&A. And I've got my HP 12C sitting up here, and I can crunch anything, okay? So whatever you throw at me, we'll put it together quickly, and I can stick it on the board if we walk you through it. All right, so there it is. General information, financial, property, projects, like a sermon, like an outline for a message. You give your background here. Of course, you don't talk about financials usually, unless you're going to do a building project with your people. But you describe your properties and the information there. You describe the vision of the project or whatever you have. And then it gets down to this, okay? And usually 25% comes from the people, and it talks about pledging on that document too. They have to do capital campaign and pledge. Quickest way to kill a Baptist, turn around and shoot them in the wallet, right? So you got to filter that out and see where their hearts are. If they want to give, they'll give. So the key is they have to. A banker's looking for that. I'm looking to make sure those people's hearts in this thing and their wallets are, and they got skin in this game. It's not a game, but they've got skin in this transaction, or else these people are not seriously following this leader. That tells me something as a banker when I'm looking inside the congregation. So in any event, that's what it is. And that's why bankers won't do startups, because there's no historical evidence to repay cash flow. When the regulator comes in and opens the file, they say, what planet were you on when you made this loan? By the way, we're not going to penalize your bank X number of dollars. By the way, you need to put this in the SAD department. By the way, you need to fire that officer over there. His job is over. That's really what happens on the inside, so you know how that works. And I've managed officers in counties for years, okay? So we make decisions based on quantifiable, documentable, black and white. Preacher Reynolds says the facts, the faith, and the feelings follow. So that's out the door, and the facts and the faith are right there demonstrated inside of this quantitative information. This is quantitative, And this is your descriptive information, and that's in your document there. Let me get over here. So this is the essential thing that we're going to core down to for you. Cash flow is very important in any business, especially to a church. I told those deacons when we'd count, I was treasurer of that 1,000-member church down there, and we get 4 of them together, and we had no deacons, didn't need them. Had 27 former pastors in the church. Pastors preaching the book away, and they're all listening, and they get right, get baptized, and whatever has to happen happens. I've watched it with this man, and he never pushes anybody, just preaches the word and lifts the Lord. And 3 trustees is all we needed to run a 1,000-member church. He said, we get to 3,000 to 5,000, we'll have some deacons. That's what he told me. Now, you do whatever you want, don't offend anybody. But I used to be one of those too, licensed to preach, deacon, all that, been through that whole thing. But my heart was for the Lord to help this pastor, period, no matter what. That's my reason for living, so to speak, there is to serve and to help him. So I sit down with these men counting the money on Mondays. I say, okay, don't even think about it. That's the Lord's money. That'll burn your hand off. Don't ever think that that's going anywhere but in that bank, and it's going to be locked down and dual control. We teach the kids here in church finance every step, accounting, finance, budgeting, and taxation, all the way through in the church finance course. We're just wrapping it up for some seniors now, and I'm excited about that. But this boils it down for you where the rubber meets the road. The net income or net surplus in a nonprofit plus depreciation, if you're doing that in your buildings, that's a non-cash expense. You may not be, okay, and that's okay. Plus interest expense on the existing loan you already have, okay, plus one-time expenses that are added back. That represents your cash flow on the top end, net after all expenses. Then you add back depreciation, add back interest expense. If you don't have it, that's fine. And then the one-time expense add backs, you can add back. Now there's one other thing here. If you don't have a bank loan with interest, you may have rent. So you'd plug rent expense in here if you're renting, okay? Because a banker's going to do that. Banker wants to make the loan. That's how they make a living, is interest income. So they really want to find a good quality character who is preaching away, built a church, solid, stable, years of existence, great, all of these positive strength factors. That's what a credit score is built on. Credit score helped build those years ago with North Carolina National Bank and Tampa. Those are designed to measure your stability factors. We know what Peter says about establishing, strengthening, and settling. If you've got established work, strengthened and settled and powerful, the numbers should reflect it. They'll kick out. Numbers just reflect the activities of people and things within an organization. The assets and the people, which are the most important. Learned that from Brother Reynolds. Being in the corporate world so long, 3 towers, I was a tower rat. What they called a mucky muck in the corporates at SunTrust downtown in Orlando. And we ran the whole state on the floor above me. I was on the 5th floor, 6th floor, ran the whole state. So I was involved in that. And he taught me. And that was something in 12 years that really helped me. Having been in that corporate world so long, you got to shake that off. I had to shake it off a little bit here with Dr. Sexton. We had a prayer meeting about it early on when I looked at some numbers, and I was just, whoa. He said, no, calm down. God will take care of this. I said, all right, we'll go back to work on this. And the Lord did, sure enough. But that's what I would consider, the people are the most important. That's our objective. So number 2, you take the annual loan payment derived from taking your monthly payments and multiplying it by 12. And I've ran some calculations over here on a couple of loans, and I'll put some of the other factors up in just a moment. Take that annual payment times 12. Now 1 plus 2 must exceed a 1.25, and it's called a debt service coverage ratio. And what that means is 25% beyond break even. So whatever your break even point is at the bottom, where your revenue and expenses match, and they come to 0, let's say. All right, when you add back depreciation, interest expense, and the add backs, all right? And then you take the new loan amount, which we'll show you up here, divide it into that. It needs to be exceeded by 1.25 times, 25% beyond its break even. Then you meet the federal guideline. That's a federal guideline. All banks are governed by that, all of them. Especially now after this debacle with the worst recession in recorded history. And by the way, I'll give you a warning. It's not over. So be careful with your people. I just got the second economic report in my office from the top economist in the country who predicted the last burst of the bubble. He's predicting another one and another one. The debt and the dollar are coming. They'll follow, maybe 3 years out. Interest rates are down now for about 3 years, 2 to 3. They're artificially down. All right, this Bernanke is buying bonds and flooding the market with money. It's artificial. All right, and I'm not teaching that in here today. I can show you the graphs, so I can show you exact data. I've got it all. But it's going to come home to roost, and probably in about 3 to 5 years at least. And you're going to see hyperinflation like we've never seen before. So be prepared in advance. All the more reason to get this stuff refinanced, batten down the hatches, get your rates down, get your debt down, personal debt, your people's personal debt, all of that, you know. Some of us are old enough in here. I wasn't raised on a farm. My dad was. So he knew how to grow food. All right? I don't. I'm going to learn it real fast. And a lot of things I'm going to learn because we have not seen it when it comes home. $16 trillion of debt. The world economy is only $26 trillion. The entire planet, the gross domestic product. The United States gross domestic product is about $16 trillion. The debt is $16 trillion. The interest rates now are very, very low on it. Okay? Hundreds of billions a year. Okay? When that rate goes back up, and they may come after you next for taxes. Okay? So just be careful about all of that. We teach the kids very carefully how to do accounting in here and make it right and gap-oriented. I pray that day never comes. Pray we get this man out because he's leaning that way, and God will take care of him. But just some concerns that I have there about keeping your people. Number one cause of divorce in the United States is finance. Finance, immorality second, destroying marriages left and right. Obviously, they have the loss. They don't have the Word of God in their hearts and minds. You know, we know that. They need to be saved and established, and do all the programs you've got inside the facilities. We need to get that cost lower. But when they walk in your church, open your bulletin, or look at your budget report. We produce financial statements in Florida every 90 days, right off the CPA. Everybody could see it. Boom, no problem. Never had a capital campaign. Didn't have to have it. They look at it and give, just because everything's clear, crystal clear. So make sure everything's transparent, clear. Most of those people are troubled that come into your church. And finances are a big problem usually. They have other problems. Sin is a big problem, but this is what's killing them, basically, and destroying their homes. They come in your church and they see some financial mismanagement or some unclear documents or this or that. It takes their mind to a place you don't. You want to take them to Christ and get them balanced. That's a burden of the heart that I have as I watch this country evaporate itself on credit and every other thing like that. But anyhow, there it is. That'll pull it together for you very simply. We'll run a couple calcs in just a moment and walk through that document with you. And I'm up to questions already. So let me do this, and maybe this will help. You'll have to tell me. Church loan amounts, do we have it in here at $500,000 or $750,000 or less maybe, or more? Anyone want to throw one out at me? Yes.
300,000.
All right, 300. All right, so if we've got a loan amount at 300, and are you looking to refi pretty soon?
Yes.
Okay, so you got a balloon coming up, maturity coming up
Yes.
on your note. Okay, your interest rate right now?
I think it's like 5, 6.
Okay.
5, 9,
Very good. Interest rates are about 3.75. That's what I did here. I put this one at 3.75 on this entire operation. So if you're at 5.625, would you say? Something like that? Okay. So you've got a big delta in there of savings that can translate back into investing in ministry and not giving it to the bank, basically. And that's important. So at 3.75 on 300,000, typically they'll do 20 years. 25 years is a policy exception according to the Fed. So 20 years is the standard for a business, typically. They do an exception, they can do that. So if we're at 300,000 and we're going 20 years, what's your remainder amortization? 15, 10, 12? I wouldn't recommend you go out further, but just do the remainder amortization so we can get out of debt faster. But I'll just run this one as if it was a new loan. You walked in the office and I'd give you a letter of intent, along these lines. And I'm going to put you at 4%. Right in the middle. So that's $1,817.94, which translates to $21,815.29. So we got $21,815 in debt service. All right, so let's put that right there. Now let's go up here. Net income. What would you say net income for the year 2012? Are you on a calendar year, December or June? Calendar year?
Calendar.
All right. What would you say the net? And you can make up a number if you want to, if you feel uncomfortable, but.
About 235.
Very good. I might want to lend to you. Starting already. All right, then you have interest expense already on your existing notes at 5.625, and your loan amount's 300. So we'll run that calc, and that's 5.625. So that's $16,860 in interest expense per annum. So 16,860 we can add back. 16,860, and if you have one-time expenses, we could do that, but you got enough cash flow already. I can see it. So I don't need to do the one-time add-backs to make it stronger. I'll illustrate that in a moment. So we take that 235 and we add that 16.8. I'm going to abbreviate it down to 16.8. That's about 251.8. I'm liking it. Man, you're almost 10 times. You know, your debt service coverage ratio is very high. So you should get the lowest interest rate on the planet, basically. Okay? And I'd press them. Because prime's at 3 1/4, try to get them under prime. And then bid them out to 4 or 5 banks and make them work for it.
Okay, that's my question.
Yep.
All right, we're talking to the banker there.
Yes, sir.
And I just talked to her here a while back, and she's talking to me. We're going from 5.6, 5.9, whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
And she comes down to say, you know, preacher, we can do this with maybe 4, 4 1/4. Well, she's throwing figures around.
She's playing games for her bonus. Yeah.
And so that's my question. How do you forward jive with these bankers?
Yes. You have them compete.
To the point where
You put that package together I've given you there. Have your treasurer or whoever that is put that together and go out to 4 or 5 banks. You let them know you're shopping that thing.
I did that. I told her that.
They'll start sweating.
That's what I told her.
Yeah, and they'll play your bluff and say, well, I didn't see anything. No LOI didn't come back with anything. See, they'll sit there like that because they're based upon income. Their income and bonuses are based upon the yields in their portfolios and what they earn, okay? So and that's what we have to do. That's what I have to do every time when we go out there.
So she's throwing out a 4 1/4, 4%, when actually she can
Yeah.
do.
When her cost of funds is about here,
Yes, that's what I figured.
okay? So that's 425 basis points or 425%. That's off the planet.
That's still to save us money there, but I just didn't know.
No, for her earnings. I mean, she's taking you to the cleaners,
Yes.
basically, is what's happening. The bank is.
What I knew.
See, the stronger you are, and I'd have to ask more questions to see your complete financial statement, how much liquidity you have in the bank, okay, how long you've been in existence there, how many years you've run cash flows like that are in the black like that. The stronger that case is, the lower your risk is, and the lower the interest rate that goes with it. That's how it works. And so you work them down, just like trying to win somebody the Lord. You get past all this false religion, whatever it is, just keep drilling until you hit oil, and get down. And God will bring it to the end until it's okay if it hurts. They got plenty of money. Banks. Matter of fact, state of Tennessee, 95% of them are profitable here. I was looking at the Tennessee Bankers Association. You pull up their magazine for whatever state you're in. They'll tell you exactly who's profitable and who's not. Florida's horrible. California's horrible. But
So my next question is,
Mhm.
and I'm slow, you're speaking fast.
I'm sorry. I'll slow down. Yes, sir.
I'm going to get it till I get it.
Yes, sir.
I want to get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As you're preaching to shop around, go to 5 different banks, your thought would be go shop.
Yes.
I mean, not to come back to threaten them, but actually
Make them honest.
To
Yeah.
refinance,
Yeah.
go
Yes.
to the best.
Yes. Let me ask you some more questions about your church. How many members?
We're running about 180 to 200.
Okay. Do you know how many square feet are in your building, roughly? How many acres you got? Location? Where's it located? What city?
Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay. Kind of a bigger town?
Yes, sir.
All right. Around you can probably count on both hands and both feet how many banks are all around you. They're everywhere, right? I'd encourage you to go to community bank. Now, you've got a strong enough case. How much liquidity in the bank? Separate from your operating need. How much sitting in the bank? Checking, savings, CDs? Yes, sir.
You're talking about right now?
Yes, sir. Everything you got liquid. It's
Oh, I don't know, we carry about 25,000.
Okay.
Something like that. But that's just the church. That does not count. We've got a daycare. We've got
Right.
a daycare separate.
So if I took everything, well, they're going to look at that too. But if I took
I
everything,
wouldn't even know how to.
just the liquid, what's in all the bank accounts, if it's $100,000 or $150,000, some churches have $2 million. There's one over here nearby who's got about $2 million in the bank. All right, so I'm just drilling because I'm looking for risk and I'm looking for your leverage points, okay, and how you can drill it home. Let's say you got $50,000. That's good.
We've been with this bank 10 years, so or more.
And your monthly expenses, you'd say, for the church, roughly, If you total your expenses, is it $25,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $5,000?
It's at least about, I'd say 16, something like that.
Okay, good. $16,000 a month. So if you had about $50,000 in the bank from a nonprofit, you got several months of on hand. See, I'm looking for strength points, okay? When you analyze, I'm an analyst. So I'm going to look at every financial target and every number, and I'm measuring risk. And then I'm going to start up here with an interest rate, and I'm going to work towards the bottom. Now, the churches in my portfolio, I took them to the bottom. In other words, I took it to the lowest rate possible and waived all the fees, waived the appraisals. You find a Christian banker that loves the Lord, and then you watch a portfolio get built for that officer. Well, God rewards that. I've been in that world, and I've done that. Every church I had, I did that. And God is honoring that here. On these buildings, they waived $100,000 in fees going in. They waived $55,000 at the bank going out. They waived the appraisal down the road. Okay, no points. I mean, they did it all here for God. You know, it was incredible. And those 3 bankers came in there with the chairman of the board and knelt in prayer with the pastor in there, Christian men, of a $2 billion bank with an $800 million portfolio. The Lord brought them to their knees. I watched it. I went through 7 banks for God to bring the one that He wanted. So I hope this helps as we expand it. So that'll help you there. So you got a strong case. And what I would do, I'd go out there, your loan's small, and I'd be really working on liquidating and getting rid of it. And I wouldn't take it out to 20 years. I'd pump that payment up, make double, triple payments, get that thing out of here, and get out of debt altogether and free the people there on that. That's what I would do as fast as you possibly can, especially in this scenario where you're at. I mean, and then start loading up to take on your next visionary project, whatever that is that God's given you, and move forward. You can blow it out of there with this model. So that was it. Boy, I started off with a good one. So thank you. Appreciate it. All right, let's see. Next. Yes, sir.
We have debt right now that we're
Okay.
trying to pay off.
Yes.
And then we also are trying to build a building.
Okay.
I would like to know how much I should borrow, like
All right.
where are we at?
What we have to do is go back and look at your net income, the same model.
Right.
Just take a look at it where you're at presently, and we'll walk through that up here on the board. Get some of this stuff out of the way here. I'll tell you whether I'd make the loan or not. I'd make your loan.
Yeah.
Back here, this pastor, I'd make your loan many times over. Matter of fact, I'd be proud to, and then I'd be after your deacons and all the business people in the church. I mean, of course, we don't make it for that. It just comes by virtue of your endorsement. I come to a dinner, or sometimes you embarrass a banker, sit him on the front row and pass the plate to him too after he closes the loan. It works, but I had a lost banker tell me that one time, and all he had in his wallet was a $50 bill, and dropped that thing in there. But he heard the gospel that day. Bob Siebert, I'll never forget it. All right, sir. Yes.
Right now, we owe $35,000.
Oh, that's good. All right. Size of your congregation?
120.
Okay. How long you been there?
3 years.
Do you have positive net income bottom line numbers for 3 years yet?
For all, it was the first year was barely in the black.
That's fine.
Second year much better, and this year much better.
That's outstanding for a brand new operation. That's a blessing there. All right, so now you're trending in the right direction. Analysts look at trends. I look at net income growth. I look at net worth growth. I look at liquidity growth. I look at all the positive, upward, and that's what you want in your church, it growing and growing and people giving and giving and ministry happening, right? And you build reserves always to cover your plant and operation for periods of time, that kind of thing. So you're at $35,000 in debt. Is that what kind of loan? Talk to me about the interest rate.
It's a personal loan from just a person in the community. It
Okay.
was $150,000, and it was set to be paid off in 2020.
So you paid that down.
We made a $22,000 payment this year and a $12,000 payment last year, and you know what I mean? Like we're a Christmas offering, and boom,
Yes.
knock it out.
Okay. Let me give you a little wisdom on that. Right now, the dollar is going to go down. So I'd pay your loan off, but you're a startup. Dollars in the future are going to be cheaper. See, the value of a dollar has diminished 17 times since it was created. It's worth about 5 or 6 cents. All right, 17 times since the monetization or monetary system, back to a gold standard, which was a number of years ago. So you've seen that. In the 1950s, a house was $20,000, a car was $1,200, a hamburger was a nickel. I remember gas was 11 cents a gallon in Miami, Florida, where I was born. I used to cut yards.
So
Today,
should we not pay big payments to get this done?
well, the key is your dollars, you're using expensive dollars to prepay debt that you may need for reserves, but we'll go into that a little bit further. You're new, you're young, so you have a longer time horizon, and where you are. But at $35,000, you paid that down, that's good. It's good to be debt-free, but it's not good to deplete all your liquidity. Because when the banker's looking at it, he's going to say, man, these are,
But we didn't.
they're
We didn't.
that's what you run into. All right? And don't take this personal. Let's just run the numbers. I know that'll be hard for you for a minute, but we'll get there. So there you are. And you found your property? You have your property?
We own 8 acres free and clear.
Perfect. Now, is it just clear? It's just land?
Completely cleared farmland.
All right.
Actually,
Now,
actually there's a parsonage on it. I live on the 8 acres.
okay, so there's a house and it was a farm, so it's zoned ag.
Yes, but it's
Okay.
off the tax roll already.
Pardon?
We got it off the tax roll.
All right, what's the tax assessed value, roughly?
350.
Very good. Excellent. You landed on it. That's a blessing there. I can see it coming, okay? Now, you need to go with the vertical structure. Have you done the architectural work already? Have you laid out a plan?
I just hired an engineer. I'm trying to hire an architect.
All right, so let's do some supposing things now. And you can find one that knows the Lord somewhere around there that'll give. Find a seasoned one. That's what we did in Florida. He drew all the maps himself by hand. Of course, then he lost his mind. We had to go hire somebody else. But at least he got them all drawn. And we had to untangle him off of that. I'll never forget that. Anyway, not too old, brother. Get them in their 50s, somewhere in there, in that zone. By the way, over 50 have the money in this country. And there's 75 million born between 1946 and 1964. They're baby boomers. I'm one of them. Over 50 have the wealth. The X generation, or the millennials, there's 78 million of them, ages 13 to 32. That's who we're trying to reach. You know that. It's published. But anyway, Ab Thomas taught me that years ago in Sunday school. Reach them in that young age. Mrs. Thomas was my English teacher, his wife, years ago. Anyway, getting back to your case, we'll get it solved. Don't worry, pretty quick. All right, so you're at 350. You owe 35. You want to build a building. Let's talk about the cost of that building now.
We currently own a building as well.
Okay.
On an acre.
Okay.
That's just over 4,000 square feet.
All right. Well, that's a huge building. It only takes 5,000 to open a bank, square feet in a building. So, and it's about $1 million to build a bank and launch one. So you're at 4,000 square feet already on an acre of land. Is it in a good location, good frontage and all of that?
It's okay.
Visibility and all that? You're happy with it?
It's about the worst address.
Okay.
Because there's that road in front of us, like it's
Mhm.
Magnolia
Yes,
Avenue.
yes.
You can never turn on the Magnolia
Yes.
Avenue.
Now let me talk about your people. Are they all, is this in close proximity to them coming?
Oh, yeah.
To this
Very
plant?
Very local folks, yeah.
Be careful about when you want to uproot that and move it when you're in
The
indigent.
property's 1 mile from there.
This is 1 mile. So you want to build a camp out there or something else? You got 4,000 square feet. How many members you got?
How many members?
Yes.
About 150.
Okay. And so you have room, how many can you seat?
80.
Oh. With a 4,000 square foot building, we have a bunch of offices and things in there?
It's 3 levels.
Oh, it's stacked. That's a pain. Well, it might be a better idea to move in this direction. Turn that to a school or something. If it's 3 levels like that, some kind of other.
Grade school. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go here now. Now let's talk about this. Cost-wise, per square foot. How big an auditorium you want to build? Let me back up from that. I'll tell you how big you can build it. Let's go back here.
I've done
Net
what
income.
I want to do, but I want to see
Yep.
what we can do.
Yes, let's do that. Net income. What's your net income?
170,000 a year.
Outstanding. Now that's unencumbered, free, clear. That's after all expenses, salaries, everything.
No.
I'm talking about net income,
Net
not gross.
income.
Net's what repays the bills.
Okay, probably like
For this.
45,000.
Okay, very good. That's not bad. So you got 45 net. Now, in that 45 or above that 45 line, are there any one-time expenses
Like a major roof repair that's gonna last.
that won't recur?
That's when about.
We
All
put
right.
a new air conditioner in the parsonage for 6,000.
There you go. That's an add back. So we add that back. We're up to 51,000 now. Now I can't build a cash flow off 1 year. I like to see 3-year trends, but I'm going to build it for you off 1 year to show you where you need to go and where you need to be. What a banker would look at.
That's the only big one-time expense we had last year.
Okay. And you've been there how many years now?
3.
Okay.
March was 3 years. Our fiscal year is from March to February.
Very good. 3, and you got that many members, and you got a very good model here. So we're at 45. Let's run a calc on that. It's going to take you, and you want to build an auditorium that seats how many?
At least 200. I'd like 42, 46 by 60 The architect was saying 175, but it'll seat
175, and you said it's 46 by 60? All right. So you can break that down by square footage.
The building we want to build is like between 7,000 and 9,000 square feet.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Now you want to build a metal building? Or a combination metal and block?
I really do not care what kind of building. I really don't. I just want it to look nice.
Now you're getting the cost down when you do that. Okay? So the per square foot is the cost. I've worked with a number of builders through the years. So if you took 7,000 square feet and it was, say, $50 a square foot, now that's not real fancy.
$250 square foot.
Who told you? The architect? Where are you located?
New Jersey.
Man, they're expensive. You can build a metal building for 50 to 70. I've financed many of these. 50 to 75 a square.
I would love to do that.
Sutherland Construction Company. I can give you the name and the address and everything like that. He builds churches. Loves the Lord.
I was in Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm an ex-banker. And what he's saying is true. Because Florida is probably not like New Jersey. It's not like it's not like North Dakota either.
Well, yeah, but I'm in the worst, like, Ocean County, New Jersey. We get hurricanes, so we have to have a big wind load, and then
Yep.
we get lots of snow, so we have snow load.
Well, Florida has hurricanes too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
All right, so you're at a million. Let me tell you where you're at. You're at 1,750,000 on 7,000 square feet. All right, so at a million, I need more board here. Let's see. 1,750,000. That's out of your ballpark right now. Okay, so you got to scale that thing down. Get an architect right. Get somebody right. But get this number down right here to a more manageable number. All right, so at 46,000, let's see what you can afford. And that's your annualized number. So let me guess at this. Let's see. And then we'll come to the children's home. We'll get all three of these. 20. You're not going to get 4%. Probably 5. I mean, at this moment, given your history, where you are. So that's about 20,000 a year. That's only 250,000. So let's go to 500,000. You already own the dirt. So at 500,
We could sell our building now.
yes, and raise pledge drive. It's all on there. Sure you can. All those things are possibilities. So that's 3. That's 36,000. So where you are right now, based on cash flow, at 46,000, you can afford about a $36,000 a payment per annum. Give you a little bit of slush room, and that's about a $500,000 borrowing. So you can build a vertical building at 500 and not blow your cash flows out of the water or strain your people till you choke them. You can't do that. You can raise capital piece to get the other 250 if you want. How long do you think it'd take you to raise 250,000 with your folks? Okay, so you got a 2-year period of time. Interest rates are going to go back up within 2 years to 3. So you're right in that pendulum, okay? So, but sometimes you get a wealthy business person too who wants to carry a note for retirement.
Well, I do have the same guy who lent us the money back when
Yeah.
they built the parsonage would like to lend us the money for this.
Do they know how much they're going to have to lend you?
I told him 800.
800,000? Okay. Well, I mean, he's going to want to see the people give too. So if you're at 800,000 here, now you're going to need cash flows. If that's going to be your loan amount, because your dirt's going to be your equity, and then your pledge drive is going to be some reserves, because there'll always be changes in that thing, and you got to watch scope creep on a job, especially with a church family. Matter of fact, you can let them do a lot of the labor things like we did. I was putting drywall and all that stuff to help pastor, even though we had professionals draw everything up to kind of cut those costs down for you. But if you're at 800,000, that'll answer your question. And then we can keep in communication. I'd like to do that. You're an alumni here. I want to make sure we stay with you on that, because God can do incredible things. I've watched him do incredible things. So let's give you that lower rate. Let's put you on 20. I'll take a gamble with you if I were the banker, you know, initially. All right, and let's see. So we got 58, and I'll tell you how so 800,000 would put you at $58,174 a year. So stay with me now. 58,000, and you've got 46 on 800. That's at 4% for 20 years with a 5-year balloon, okay, or a 5-year adjustment. So you're inverted there a little bit. We'd have to wind that thing down or raise capital, a capital campaign.
Right now, the money that he did lend to us, he lent us at 5.5%, and it was fixed for 20
Oh, he'd do that all day long. You know, when he can only get,
He did that back
you know what, savings rates are right there right now. in a bank.
So he would love to have his money making that money instead of making that money.
Right. Well, of course. That's 545%, points or whatever. He's making a killing. So, but the Lord will take care of him. See, with churches, I always tell, and I always give to churches. I don't lend to churches as a person, as an individual. Banks, that's a business kind of a transaction if they have to borrow it all. That's been my practice. And to teach the people, that's the practice. Give to God. You're giving to the Lord. God's going to take care of you, and he will, big time. That's just a lack of faith. But anyway, that's okay. I don't want you to preach that sermon to him. He's got a few things going there. It just takes a little while, to get to that place. Let the deacons or whoever else handle those kind of things, treasure and that kind of thing. So does that help you?
Yeah, big time.
So we can work out
I know where it needs to be.
See, I can put you where you can afford now, but I'm telling you, to get it approved, it's going to be, because you need 3 years worth of this history, at least, minimally, for a bank. Yeah. So that you're a greater risk. So what happens is you can go to private money, like you've gone at 5.5, outside that window. Finance company, private capital, there's lots of things, and they don't have as many regs as a bank does, but they won't lend to you as low a rate either.
He'll probably lend us at 5.5 or less, because rates are lower now than they were. Now than when you lent it first.
Well, very good. Well, praise the Lord on that. And give you a longer term here. Then when you get your 3 to 5 years of cash flows built up, as the Lord leads now, and I don't want you just looking at cash flows, okay? I caution these preachers. Just preach the gospel. The Lord will touch the hearts of these people. I don't try to make you into some kind of mathematical, money changer or something like that. We don't want to do that. Just preach the gospel. The Lord will bring the people in there and touch their hearts to do the right thing. And then you manage the process and disclose. And always have everything like it's in a glass house. Salaries you gross up, I never break those down. They come to me in person, talk to me about that. I pull out Dr. Hammer's book, and I run them down all the schedules of the church questionnaire and everything, and point right to the attorneys and CPAs when I put a salary on a pastor or any of their expenses. I run through a whole map. There's 13 criteria for that, and I use all of that, and that eliminates all this bickering stuff, and so forth. Anyway, preachers heard that before. It's happened. So So you do that. So you're young. You're still working at it. And they're going to love you to death as a young man. You keep building that church, and I can see those Christian folks coming in there and just pouring it in as you lead them. But what you've got to do is a couple things. You need to get your building defined, have an artist rendering, have the architect cost broken down, be able to let the people see and help you put that together so they take ownership in what you're doing there for the Lord. And then as your numbers grow, and maybe this man steps forward, don't get impatient, too impatient. Now, a church, if you're at 75% capacity, you can be looking at another building, the people in it. You never want to fill that thing.
The thing is we're having 2 services, and the reason
so you're there.
We're filled up, and now they're full up again, and it's...
Okay, then we've got to get you've got to get these steps done to get this number right, that number, and fit it into your piece here. Now, the people can pay and eliminate some of that debt service by giving more with the pledge drive that's talked about in there, doing a pledge. And that's that'll get people excited. You start a building program. It really works. And they get motivated, As spiritual as we want to think they are, they're more tangible many times to see things. And then God will touch their heart, and you're shepherding. You're shepherding them. All right. Does that help you?
Very much. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Now we got one more. And this is on the children's home. Move this out of the way. Yes, sir.
Our previous pastor bought a good easement from General Steel.
Yes.
Paying for it.
Okay.
As far as getting it to our location and whatnot.
Okay.
And now people are trying to motivate me to get rid of it somehow. I don't really know how to do that, but I'd be happy to sell it to you. I'm looking at $50,000, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
90 by 140.
Wow.
We own the building. We bought it from General Steel. It's on their property in Denver. We don't have the money to have it delivered to us. And we're not going to use it as far as.
What was it? Where was it made for?
Well, the materials basically are for a gymnasium, but you can use it to make whatever you want.
I looked into used door to door.
I'm going to step into the next one time. You guys.
You two should. We should talk.
Okay. We've got a children's home, and we have a bank note, and we have individual notes on this. And he's got 2 sticky wickets in there two individuals that are a little bit, they'll get right sooner or later. But you've got an elderly couple that are marvelous in their 80s, as Pastor has mentioned. And so we got, is a 4,000 square foot building? 5. All right. So we got 5,000 square feet, and we're on 60 some acres? 125 acres. Wow. But you have another farm behind it that's 40. Okay, so this is where the 165 comes from. Okay, so we've got 40 acres. And that's an income producing farm. And he has a couple to go there, to that farm. But what we have is a situation where the bank note is at 130 or 135? 130. I got that one right. At least 130 on the bank. Small note. And they won altogether, was it 650? 625. All right. So we're at 625. And these are owner-held notes. This is a bank note that's sitting there. Any renovations need to be done to the building to get it ready? Roughly the cost of that?
No, it's ready. It's
ready.
Building, commercial grade. The total is 625. Out of that 625 is the 130. So the 495 is of the individual.
Okay. So this is what we're dealing with now is an potential owner-held note. And they've been charging this other man interest on that note that was there running it.
Right.
And he can't, it's kind of stopped. Okay. And these are Christian people, love the Lord. They're, okay. And they wanted to be paid off, which is logical, get a lump sum distribution back to themselves, and then pay the bank off. All right? Since it is a situation like that, what we'd have to do from a banking standpoint is we would go back to your church and pull your financials for 3 to 5 years, that package you've got there. We would look at the financial package of this center from this gentleman also. Same information, at least 3 to 5 years in history. The banker can't lend into something that's stopped. It's against policy, against reg. He's booking a cited asset. He's fired, basically. It won't happen. The board will not approve it. So what we do is we leverage what you have. Do two things. You can do a capital campaign to do all that you need to do, or you can leverage the power of the church cash flow that's there if the people are willing, just like they were willing for Brother Reynolds and I to start Highland Park Community Baptist Church, which we're starting. They voted and sent the money, and we're starting that church. June 2nd it opens. So, but they got behind it, and they put their money where their mouth, they just wrote a check for $30,000 to put in the account, and here we're off and running, and there's money coming from all over the country. So God's going to power that up. Excited about that. Helping him do that and honor my pastor there. So here we have it. This piece and this piece. This is pretty resolvable because that banker's going to be just fat, dumb, and happy to get this church to step in here and take that over when it's about out of business and, declining.